All right, so I've started recording and I'll turn it over to the judges.
Great. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the afternoon. And my name is Candice Steele, and I'm retired as a judge on the U.S. Civilian Board of Contract Appeals, where I handled government contract disputes around the country. And I've been with this, I'm from the state of Maryland, and I've been around this program for 20 years now. So, Kurt?
All right. Hello, I am Kurt Mabus. I'm an attorney with the United States Air Force. I am currently in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I teach law at the Air Force Academy. And I'm a next door neighbor alum out of the state of Indiana.
My name is Richard Leiter. I'm the professor of law and director of the law library at the University of Nebraska, College of Law in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've been doing state competitions for about 15 years. My first time judging the nationals. So I've been very impressed so far. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Great. And would you introduce yourselves, please?
Hello, my name is Gabriela Espinoza.
Hi, my name is Amanda Mraz, and I will be substituting for one of my colleagues who unfortunately couldn't be here today.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samantha Silva. Thank you all for being here. We represent Chicago Hope Academy, and we are coached by our teacher, Mr. Zach Maslinka.
Great. Hi, welcome. And I will go ahead and read the question. A Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to against every government on earth, general or particular, and what no just government should refuse or rest in inference. Do you agree or disagree with Thomas Jefferson? What are the advantages and disadvantages of a national Bill of Rights as compared to state bills of rights? What are the differences between positive and negative rights, and which are more important to the preservation of liberty? You may begin.
We agree with Thomas Jefferson. The Bill of Rights, written by James Madison and ratified in 1791, is fundamental to the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson, an advocate for states' rights opposed to a strong centralized power and anti-federalist, believed that a Bill of Rights is essential for a stable society. One of the many points separating Federalists from anti-federalists was the Constitution's lack of Bill of Rights. The founders found the Bill of Rights was necessary to safeguard the liberties of an individual. Additionally, in the Virginia Declaration of Rights, written by George Mason in 1776, states, "All men are by nature equally free and independent and have certain inherent rights." The purpose of this document is to proclaim the inherent rights of men, including the right to reform or abolish inadequate governments. A common view opposing the necessity of the Bill of Rights is in Federalist 84, where Alexander Hamilton argues that the Bill of Rights would not be helpful but even dangerous, limiting the rights of the people. Hamilton argues that the people can only do what the Constitution specifically gave them authority to do. Hamilton's fears were calmed when the Ninth Amendment was ratified, which gave people rights not listed in the Constitution. We agree with Thomas Jefferson's argument that the Bill of Rights is essential to the individual. The Bill of Rights is built on the foundation of protecting our most cherished American freedoms.
The Bill of Rights guarantees essential rights and civil liberties, such as the right to free speech, the right to bear arms, as well as reserving rights to the people and the states. The advantages of having a national Bill of Rights as to a state Bill of Rights is that the Bill of Rights would give formal recognition to the human fundamental rights that everyone has. A disadvantage is that a Bill of Rights would immediately and continually erode the sovereignty of the legislator. Another advantage is that it gives minorities and the most vulnerable people in our society further legal protection. A disadvantage of a national Bill of Rights is that it would politicize the judiciary. Although many say that we need a national Bill of Rights more than a state Bill of Rights, Federalists rejected the proposition that a Bill of Rights was needed. They made a clear distinction between the state constitutions and the United States Constitution. Using the language of social compact, Federalists asserted that when the people formed their state constitutions, they delegated to the state all rights and powers that were not explicitly reserved to the people. Having a national Bill of Rights is more an advantage than having a state Bill of Rights due to selective incorporation. Selective incorporation is a constitutional doctrine which was made applicable to the states through the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Through this, the Supreme Court limits state regulation of civil rights, liberties, and holding that many protections of the Bill of Rights apply to every level of government, not just federal.
Positive rights are subjected to an action of another person or a group, while negative rights restrict or prevent the government from acting in a certain way. Examples of positive rights include the right to counsel, the right to a trial by jury, police protection of person and property, public education, and the due process protection of the 14th Amendment. Examples of negative rights include freedom of speech and religion within the First Amendment, right to life, liberty, and property, and the protections of the Eighth Amendment. We believe that positive rights are more important than negative rights for the preservation of liberty due to the Sixth Amendment right to counsel, a speedy and public trial, an impartial jury, and an informal indictment. In the court case Gideon versus Wainwright, the court ruled a 9-0 decision in Gideon's favor, which provided him a lawyer. This is an example that the violation of human rights in any form can affect citizens negatively due to the suppression of the right to due process and fair justice, all seen in positive rights. The violation of positive rights creates a larger problem in that the common good of justice for all is not adhered but breached. Thank you. We are now ready for your questions.
Great, thank you so much. Well, you've talked about what went into the Bill of Rights. Could you say what was left out of the Bill of Rights? What should have been in the Bill of Rights that wasn't?
I believe that the right to vote should have been in the Bill of Rights. It was later added as an amendment.
Great, any other thoughts?
Or can you at least discuss why? Can you extrapolate on that thought? Why vote in the Bill of Rights?
I do think that voting is a very important part of our country. I think that voting is something that should have been in the Bill of Rights. So I do agree with my colleague. Voting now has been seen to help a lot, and it's seen to it's seen throughout with people voting, using the people's voices. So I do think it should have been in the Bill of Rights.
Do you think do you think we needed an amendment now to that effect?
Well, let me, while you ponder that question, let's explore what you've just said a little bit more deeply. You mentioned the right to vote as being an important right that wasn't included in there. Can you talk a little bit about how people may lose their right to vote, if there is such a thing, and where does it come from? And how do they get it back? Is it possible for citizens to lose a right that is given to them or is granted to them under the Constitution?
I wouldn't necessarily say that they lose their right, but when it comes to the right to vote, people who are in prison kind of do lose their right to vote. They aren't able to go to the voting polls to vote. So I do think that people somewhat lose their right to vote when it comes to that case of people in jail. How can they get it back? Well, I'm not really sure how they get it back unless they when they get out of prison, they can vote. But
yeah, it actually I shouldn't be helping you like this probably, but many states, you do actually lose your right to vote when you are convicted as a felon. States do have different ways that people can get them back. It's unsettled. It's not more than a question of just being incarcerated. Sorry.
So we talked about the fact that you can. Are you okay with that? Do you think that we should be able to take away someone's inherent right to vote?
I think that, as previously stated, that people, if they go to jail, they lose their right to vote, but also you can do many things. Like, I believe you have to go to court to get that right back. And I feel like that's a reasonable way to receive your right back. I feel like
Reasonable or unreasonable?
Reasonable.
Okay.
That they give you a way to get that right back. They don't take it permanently away from you. There's always a way to get it back.
Okay. Then would you say, is voting a positive or a negative right? If it were to come in, would you call that a positive right or a negative right? If voting were the issue.
I think it would be a positive right.
Okay. And what's the difference between positive and negative rights?
The difference is that positive right requires the government to help or interfere, and negative rights, they don't.
Okay.
In your opening statement, you mentioned that one of the disadvantages to a federal Bill of Rights is the potential that it would politicize the judiciary. Do you think that that has happened? Is that still a current concern for us?
You also said that it would weaken sovereignty. Can you explain what you meant by that? I think it's sort of the same area.
Could someone address perhaps your understanding, what is the difference as a philosophical matter between positive and negative rights? Are some better than others?
Of negative rights, which is that the government can't interfere with your demonstrating, for example, or your First Amendment right. If that's a negative right, can you think of other examples where the government actually can't say anything, can't do anything about your right, as opposed to the positive rights you talked about where they have to do something? Are there other rights that prevent the government from doing anything in a particular area?
I think the rights that the government can't really do anything comes to religion. I think religion is something that I think the government doesn't really have a say in.
Okay, so that would be under the First Amendment that you're talking about. That would be a negative right under the First Amendment. Okay, can you think of, I mean, there's certainly other examples in the First Amendment that might also be covered. What other things are covered by the First Amendment?
The freedom
The freedom of press, religion, petition, and assembly, and also the freedoms to be free would count as negative rights.
Yeah, okay.
Gabriella, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna go, but my colleague already went.
Okay.
Okay.
Kurt, you're muted.
You mentioned that positive rights are more important than negative rights. Why is that?
I believe that with the Sixth Amendment, we have a right to a counsel and trial by jury. And when it comes down, like if you're in court and you have a jury, like the people who are the jurors, they're just ordinary people. They don't have any they're very diverse. And so instead of having government officials decide like the ruling of like important court cases, you have just a group of like unbiased, ordinary people who make that decision. Like the following day, they go back to work like almost like nothing happened. So I believe that's very important.
I think that.
Good. There you go. Sorry, Gabriella, if you want to finish your sentence, you started to say something.
Oh, I said that even though I said that positive rights are most important. I believe that they're equally important because negative rights, like for example, the First Amendment, like the government can't interfere with those rights, and I feel like that's really important in our society today.
Great, thank you. Thank you, all of you. Great. Kurt, you want to start?
Yeah, thank you. So well done. As you can see, these are difficult questions. And when Richard starts off with, hey, I've got a philosophical question for you, man, those are tough because they just don't have good answers. And so I appreciate you struggling through it with us because we all struggled through this one. It's not an easy concept to kind of balance and say, yeah, but what is better or worse? And so you're not going to be right and you're not going to be wrong. So
We don't have the answers either.
Yeah, we don't have the answer. So well done. So Richard, over to you.
Yeah, I would just, excuse me, reinforce what Kurt just said. There are no answers, right answers to these questions. And I'd encourage you not to, you obviously know what you're talking about. Your opening presentation was very good, and you covered the subject well, very well, and your presentation was very good. But don't shy away from voicing an opinion when a difficult one, especially on these philosophical questions, comes at you. You can't get it wrong. All you need to do is tell us what you think. But you should be proud of yourselves. You thought about this and you know a great deal. I feel really good about our future, knowing that there are high school students that are this well versed in the Constitution. It's just astonishing. So good job, and thank you. You should be proud of yourselves.
Thank you very much, and especially for stepping in the middle. That must have been really fun this morning to find out you're all of a sudden in Unit 5. Thank you very much for your clear presentation. It was a nice statement that you gave, and I hope I agree with my colleagues here, and I just want to add that I hope that this has increased your interest in being an active citizen, and knowing that we need you to go out and study what's going on in the world and decide which way you think it should go, and go into a voting booth and vote for the people you think are going to do what you need them to do. There's no greater responsibility that any of us has as a citizen than to represent what we think is the best thing for the country. And so I'm very glad that you all have had this education so that you know you'll be doing, you can not only vote for yourself, but you can educate the people around you about what you think is a good idea and be a good model for the people around you. So I hope you've had a good time with this program. I know it's real hard to have been doing it online and digitally, but we're very glad to see you here, and thank you very much for a nice job. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
Bye.